I was 33 years old, well over 400 pounds, and food was my prison. And then I learned that food had the answer to my questions, and my kitchen had the cure for my disease. When I was 400 plus pounds, and I don't have an exact number because I had actually blown past the scales that all had that weight limit. Life was all about the food. I was deeply struggling with a processed food addiction. There was this little voice inside me that said, if you don't do something, you will not make it to 40 years old. And that's when I really just fell in love with the idea of how can I be my best self? So I was fighting for me and fighting for my health. When I went plant-based, my whole relationship with food changed. I realized how much better I was feeling. I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. That's magic to me. And the weight just sort of slowly melted away, which is something I never thought was possible. Now, food prepping for me is a joy. I celebrate the quality of the food. It's just very rewarding. Healing starts at home. Mine did. And so can yours.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marvis, and today I'm super excited to welcome Aaron Calder. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So you're joining us from the UK. I appreciate you staying up late for us.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Oh, absolutely. So you have a unique story. I'm honestly, I'm thinking about all the interviews that I've done, and I haven't spoken to anyone with a particular story like yours, surrounding, liver disease and other things associated with alcoholism and your journey, which I find utterly fascinating, especially as you tie it into the diet. But can you tell us a little bit about your history, where you're from, and how you grew up, and then kind of how that evolved into where you got sick?
Yeah, so I live in the UK in Brighton. I've lived in Brighton probably for maybe 15 years, maybe longer. But originally I'm from a place called Tunbridge. Yeah, but basically I had I don't know if it's different around the world, but in the UK, there's sort of like a lot of binge drinking going on with young people. So sort of as soon as I hit 16, 17, going out and things like that, I would binge drink just at the
Is it
weekend.
is it legal to drink at 16 in the
No,
UK?
no, it's
Oh,
18, but a lot
oh,
of
at
people drink.
18.
Yeah, a
Wow.
lot of people drink, could get hold of alcohol or use fake ID, things like that.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, I would binge drink a lot. I was very, very shy, very sensitive, insecure. So alcohol was a big sort of confidence booster for me. And didn't, I think it was very typical of a teenager or a young person to go out and do that. Didn't ever think it would become a problem. And then I think the next step was I went to work in London as a personal assistant. And then again, there's a lot of drinking in London. I'd never really seen the culture where you finish work and you have a glass of wine, you go out, have a glass of wine, go clubbing, you have vodka, etc. So it started to go from binge drinking at the weekends when I went out to a glass of wine here and there in the evening. And that went on for quite a few years. And then I did start to think this could be a problem. So I did talk to a couple of people. I spoke to my boss about it just for advice, and he just said, oh, most people drink. He drank, most evenings. And then it sort of really got to a problem when I was in my late 20s, where I just became sort of unhappy with sort of a lot of things in life and my work. Still very insecure and unconfident. And then, so I would drink on my own in the evenings a bottle of wine. That became 2 bottles of wine. Then that sort of went on to become like sort of 2.5 bottles of wine. And then I would get the shakes in the morning, feel dreadful, couldn't really function. And that's when it became a real problem, where I would think, oh, if I just have a little glass of wine or a little bit of vodka, it'll make me feel normal and I'll get me through the day. And I did that for a long time until it became, I became alcohol dependent. So I couldn't, as much as I didn't want to drink and I knew it was a problem, it completely sort of took over my life, where I had to drink in order to function.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know, just on a physiologic level, what's going on in the body. You become literally addicted, and it can actually be dangerous to stop alcohol very quickly. You can have, like you said, the shakes that you were having, the tremors, can lead to seizures and death. It's a very serious situation. So how old were you at this point when things really hit rock bottom, would you say?
I was probably, well, rock bottom was probably about 31,
Young. Oh my
maybe
goodness.
31, 32,
Okay.
where people were noticing that I was drinking a lot. I was drinking at work. I was what you would call a functioning alcoholic. So I could drink a lot and hide it. So, I could go out with family, go into work and be drinking and just function normally. But if I hadn't drunk, I wouldn't have been able to function. It was sort of that bad. As I said, the shakes, sweating, I'd be vomiting, and I'd have vodka to stop me vomiting. I guess my body was going into sort of shock in the morning or something, because I hadn't had anything to drink for a while. And then I started to, get ill, swollen ankles, jaundice, vomiting all the time, not eating properly. And still I was in complete denial, thinking I will stop one day. Lying to people, saying, oh, I've got an eye infection, when my eyes were bloodshot. Sometimes people say, oh, I can smell alcohol on you, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I did have a drink last night. And anything to cover it up.
Right.
And then that eventually led to me having a couple of funny turns at work, where a first aide said, I said to her, I had swollen ankles, and she said it's gout. And I said, well, what causes gout? And she's run off a few different things, and then she said alcohol was one of them. And I said, oh no, I don't think it's alcohol. And I went to hospital, and they said, you've got jaundice, you've got gout, we've done some tests and your liver function's not great, and they said, we're going to keep you in, but I refused. Came home, still carried on drinking. And then eventually did go back in, where they kept me in for a while, detoxed me. This was sort of like the start. It gets even worse. And then it detoxed me. I stopped drinking for a while. It was very, very hard not to drink. And then stupidly, after a few weeks, they said, oh, your liver function's returning to normal. And I took that as I can have a drink again, and started drinking. And then literally that was the rock bottom, where I got really, really bad.
So can you walk us through those events as things got really tough and life-threatening for you?
Yeah, so it got to the point where work sent me home, and they said, we're giving you some time off. They didn't actually acknowledge the alcohol, but they said, we know, you're not yourself, you're you need some time to sort yourself out. They had actually said a couple of times people had smelled alcohol on me, but they never sort of took any further action. And so I had, I think it was a week or 2 weeks off, and during those 2 weeks, sort of I was losing function in my legs, so I found it very, very difficult to stand up. My balance was all over the place, vomiting. I'd drink, go to bed, wake up, have some water, because I was so dehydrated, throw that up, and then I'd go and find vodka wherever I'd hidden it the night before, start drinking that neat from the bottle, throw that up, and then keep drinking until I stopped throwing up. And then I sort of felt like I was functioning normally, just felt normal, didn't feel drunk, just felt normal, as I do now.
Wow. Wow. So then at that point, you were also having, what happened the night that you went to the hospital?
Yeah, so the second time was I had been out with some friends for a birthday party, said I wasn't going to drink, but it was sort of in a field. We were camping out for the night, so it was so easy to access alcohol, which I did. Told everyone I was, just said I was drinking orange juice, but I was putting vodka in there. And then I woke up in the morning, and I remember I had this horrible metallic taste, which now I know is, I think, the iron in the blood basically I started to be sick, as I normally would, but it was blood. And of course, anyone vomiting blood, I remember my heart just completely dropped, and I thought, oh God, this is it. I'm gonna die. Don't know what to do. Managed to sort of stop being sick, pull myself together, went and sort of spoke to my partner and things like that. And then I was sick again, and that's when I said to him, like, I'm vomiting blood. We need to go home. Got home, carried on throwing up. God knows how I survived this, but went to bed for about 2 hours. Woke up and sort of thought, hopefully I'll be okay. And began vomiting again. That's when he took me to the hospital. But it was it was so bad. I actually thought at one point I'm vomiting up bits of my liver because it was lumpy. I think it was where the blood was clotting.
Yeah.
Threw up in the car all over myself.
Wow.
Got to the hospital. He went to check me in. I rushed to the toilet and again was throwing up. And then I'm thinking, this is a lot of blood,
Oh my gosh.
this is really bad. And then they brought me like a sick tray out to hold. And then they saw me throwing up, and that's when they said, look, we're getting you in. And then after that, I just remember laying on a bed, telling my partner, you go home, look after the dogs, I'll be okay. And then after that it was a bit of a blackout until I woke up the next day.
Wow. So what did they do for you during that time? You had varices, or basically it's dilated blood vessels that surround your esophagus, the tube where you swallow. And it basically the just for people to understand, the scarring, I guess you could describe, or the swelling of the liver causes where it doesn't go through. The liver is unable to filter the blood, and it backs up. And most people who end up in that situation don't survive. And so I just consider it a gift that you're not done with your mission on this earth yet. So, that's amazing. So what were your thoughts when you woke up the next morning? Because that's kind of the first day of the rest of your life sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know what medication they're giving me, but I was very groggy and still sort of in denial. And they said, I think they said something like I'd lost about 2 liters. I might have got this wrong because I was
2 liters.
2 liters of blood. And they said we had to give you a blood transfusion. And they said there was 7 varices they had to band, where literally, as you know, blood was literally just pumping in my esophagus into my stomach. And and I've just felt awful. And I remember I just kept thinking, I really, really want a glass of water. And they said, no, you can't, because the water can start the bleeding again. So they said, you're on a drip, you'll be fine. And I was like, no, I'm really thirsty. So they gave me like a little sponge to dip in water, and it was that weirdly, I remember that was really bad. And then they although I was very groggy, probably like hallucinating as well. Some things I'm not sure if they were really happening. But they started to say, the doctors would come in and say, we've done some tests, your liver's failing, you've got kidney damage, your spleen's damaged, you've malnourished, gout, blah blah blah, all these different things, and they said basically it's not good. So I didn't I think a lot of people would have been really worried, but I just thought, I think actually at the time I was so depressed and just had given up on life, which is probably why I was drinking so much. I just thought, whatever happens. So that was.
So you had your journey in the hospital, which was quite amazing. So that was a 2-week.
Yeah, it's I think it's about 13 days I was there.
Wow.
Which
So
is great.
What changed for you? Like what allowed you to go from attempting to quit or having the thoughts of quitting to really being able to, like what changed in your mind, your thoughts? What was it that really was the important piece, or were there multiple things?
I think one thing that stood out was one of the doctors said to me, if you have one more drink, you'll die.
Wow.
Yeah, they said it's that bad. They said your liver won't handle it. You'll, and if it does for a very short period, you'll carry on drinking until it just packs in. And it was also the constant blood tests. I had an oxygen mask. I had, cannulas, had things on my chest, and I remember, I just couldn't move. I just wanted to sort of roll over and sort of go to sleep, but I felt like I was sort of almost sort of tied up, and I had fluid on my abdomen, which they had to syringe out. I don't know if that's the right term. That was really painful, and it was really humiliating as well, just to be in the hospital, and people, and I think people, nurses and stuff would probably think, oh, he's a not that I ever came across that way, but he's got himself in that state through drinking, whereas there's people in there that have got cancer or been hit by a car that really do need help. But yeah, sorry, to go back to your question, it was a very, very long journey, but it started in the hospital, and I think I just had to admit to myself, I can't drink again. I need to get help, and they said, we're going to send you to a 2-week, daily 2-week rehab. We'll get you counseling, we'll get you medication. That was sort of where I thought, I really need to sort myself out, and I can't do this anymore.
What year was this?
The year, God, it was would have been 10 years ago, so 2012. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So was there anything that's special that happened in your time in rehab or after your time that really helped you stick to it? Because rehab is obviously, it's a controlled space. They literally have you captive in the sense that everything is given and you have support. What happens when you go home? Like, what was that transition like?
Yeah, you have to have a lot of strength. So all the alcohol was taken out of the house. I know my family and my partner were very conscious of not drinking around me or being careful if I was out, maybe keeping an eye on me and stuff. But yeah, it was listening to other people's stories. Also, I think the biggest thing, which I always say to people, that because I get quite a few people email me and stuff, is the number one thing is you have to admit you've got a problem, and as soon as you do that, everything starts to sort of change. If you don't do that, you're going to slip up, you're going to relapse. Support and admitting that you've got a problem. And I'm very much, look, I think it's probably most addictive people are like it. Once I just put my mind to something, I just think, right, that's it, I'm going to do it 100%. And I
so
did.
whether good or bad, right?
So a lot of yeah, so when people ask for advice about addiction, I say, well, find something you like that you can be addicted to, but find something good. So for me, it would be like my posting my meals, or, you know, looking into nutrition and things like that, going to the gym.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about that then. So tell us a little bit about the dietary journey, because you said you were vegetarian at some points and then decided to go plant-based, but there was some interesting tests that were happening with your liver, correct?
Yeah, so I'd been vegetarian since I was 11, not a particularly healthy vegetarian. In hospital, they gave you lots of build-up drinks that were dairy, which looking back, I probably think might have hindered slightly my healing progress. But yeah, I have to go to the hospital a lot for scans, for checkups, blood tests, and you know, it's very, very slow, sort of the progress, to the point where I just thought, I'm not going to get better, or it's going to go downhill again. And there was one thing, you probably have heard of it, a FibroScan, where they put a sort of laser on your liver, and they can tell sort of the stiffness and how bad it is. And mine, when they did mine, they said the score was 75. And I said, was that good or bad? And they said, that's the top, the worst score. And I said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, it doesn't go any higher than 75. And I remember the specialist's face as if this thing sort of dropped, as if to say, how is this guy still alive and functioning? And with that, and then that, I think because I'd always been interested in health and things, I watched a couple of things on Netflix about diet, and the plant-based diet just kept coming up all the time. You know, people had healed lots of many different things, but I was very skeptical, thinking, well, you know, you need milk for calcium, protein, you need cheese, you need eggs, you know, this and that, because that's what I'd been brought up to believe. And then I think after I'd watched another documentary, I thought, right, this can't be coincidence. There's got to be something in this plant-based diet. So I thought, I'll give it a go for a couple of weeks, see if there's any changes, and take it from there. So it was a slow transition, but yeah, I started changing what I eat, and then I did notice a lot of health changes in myself, and then but you do think, oh, is it just me imagining it? But then anyway, sorry, then I went to the doctor again, to the specialist at the hospital, and he said, well, you look amazing, you know, you've lost weight, your cholesterol's good, blood pressure's perfect, liver function's come back really good. And he said, you know, what have you been doing? So I said, I've gone vegan. And he said, no, you can't go vegan. And I said, well, why? And he said, it's not good. I really don't recommend it. And I
So
just remember,
just want to make sure. So he said you were looking good, and then suddenly said what you were doing was bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no one can get their head around that. Even I sat there and I thought, well, he's just said all these different things. And then I did sort of think, I questioned it and thought, well, you know, he's the doctor, the professional. Maybe, you know, I've been lucky, and, you know, it's not a long-term healthy thing to do. But the thing that got me was they did the FibroScan again. So it'd been 75. I had two, both were 75. That was over 2 years. And then the third one, they said, oh, it's come down to 39. So I thought, wow. So not only had I lost weight and all these other amazing things, and I just felt better, my skin was clearer. I thought, well, this is proof, you know, it's not just me making these things up. You know, professionals are telling me that I am getting better. So yeah, then I just continued with the plant-based diet, trying to get lots of healthy and nutritious things into my body to try and, you know, speed up the healing process. And then yeah, I've had a couple of FibroScans since, and the last one was 29. So it's still dangerously high. But for me, that it's come down that much, I'm really pleased with.
Wow. So that's incredible. So you've had a significant improvement in liver
Yeah.
function via objective testing like labs and scans and different things. So you had mentioned as you were transitioning to a vegan diet that you noticed some health things. What were those by any chance you could share?
Yeah, so my skin got clearer, got less puffy, my digestion got better. One thing I was worried about was calcium, but I noticed my nails were growing faster and stronger, and my hair seemed to be growing faster and stronger. A weird thing I noticed was my reflexes. Like if you sort of knock something off a shelf and you sort of go to grab it, and then like it's 50-50 if you grab it, or I would do something and I'll be really quick and I'm thinking, God, this is something's going on. Yeah. I thought something's going on there. And I just felt so much better. And then I had as I say, I had that backed up with tests. More energy. And then more recently, I was always told, and I was really worried about it, was because of the damaged the varices, which I have to have an endoscopy every year just to see what it's like. They'd said you can't really do too much exercise because you're at risk of pressure, plus the medication I was on, it could cause damage. But during during COVID and the lockdown, I thought everyone was so bored, including me. I thought I'm going to do a bit of exercise. And it was fine. So when the gyms reopened, I thought, you know what, I'm going to join a gym. Hadn't been in 13 years.
Wow.
And I go every day now. I've gone every day for over a year. So.
Wow. So you're reclaimed your life, but I am curious. So you've been drinking since you were so young. Do you feel like you missed out? What is different? Because you said you felt normal working and drinking. What is normal now? How is it different? Can you differentiate that? Isn't just
Yeah, you have to completely change your life and how you think, and it's difficult. Where I would go out to a dinner party or to a club or a bar and just drink and stay out late, now I'll be more conscious. And if I'm out with friends and they're drinking, I would say I'm going to go home now. And they're all understanding. I don't want to I always say I always say to people, you've got to be selfish, but I need to think of a better word. But it's true, because it's self-preservation. So whereas sort of most people go to a dinner party and if someone's cooked, feel obliged to stay until the host has finished all the alcohol and it's gone midnight, at 6 o'clock, or a couple of hours into the meal or something. Obviously once I've had the meal and stuff, and I've just feel like enough is enough, and I need to go home and just look after myself. So I guess I'm taking myself out of not so much temptation, because I don't feel tempted anymore, but just being more self-aware and looking after myself.
I think self-preservation is a good word.
Self-preserving. But you literally just have to change everything, and it's it's a step-by-step thing. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. I think it was in August I was 10 years sober.
Congratulations.
Hadn't touched a drop, and I'm very, very lucky because I don't get any cravings. There's loads of alcohol in the house. People bring alcohol around because not for me, just like for dinner parties and stuff, because my partner will like have a drink. So if like we're having people around, they'll bring a bottle of wine, and then when they leave, there might be one left. There's actually one sitting on the side there.
Wow.
But I just no temptation at all.
Yeah, you went through a lot. I mean, that would be enough to deter many people. So getting more close to your diet, you said you like to share your food and recipes. I would be amiss not to ask what you eat in a day, because that's a very common question people want to know. So what are you eating, and what do you recommend for those who are traveling down a similar journey with your liver health? Anything in particular that you found?
For me, at the start, I was a lot more healthy. in, a lot of my health conscious in the things that I ate, but because I feel now I'm at a stage where, so like when I had my last blood test, the doctor said to me, if they didn't know I had cirrhosis from the blood test, they wouldn't know, because it was perfect, the liver function, everything was fine, but because there is that underlying issue that they know about, obviously I still have to be careful. But yeah, I sort of have a thing with food where I try and eat very, very healthy, and then have once or twice a week junk food, but I balance it out. So like today was a good day, so I have porridge and put things like dates in it, like soy milk or oat milk, some protein powder, just because I'm going to the gym. Obviously you don't need that if you're not going to the gym, because you can get enough protein in the diet anyway. But so I put lots of things like cinnamon, raisins, and then I have apple, strawberries, things like that. I don't have a big appetite, so for lunch I have a sort of a superfood smoothie, which is banana, oats, spirulina, wheatgrass. I just sort of throw anything in, turmeric, anything that is like really nutritious, anti-inflammatory, throw that in to boost my immunity and sort of help me heal even more. And then dinner I had God, it wasn't that long ago, I think what I had for dinner. I can't remember, that's really bad.
Not uncommon.
What was it? It'll come back. I know I had bread. That is one thing from the drinking is my memory. So my memory, short-term memory, is really bad. That's one of the things that's not great. God, I'm gonna have to.
What do you normally consume on your dinner times? Like, what is your normal fare? Is it beans and grains, or more vegetables? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, lots of beans, lentils. I always have things. I try and stay away from processed things like white bread, white pasta. So I always have whole grain bread, whole grain cereal, things like that. I try and stay away from sugar and salt, additives, no fizzy drinks. I have things like kombucha, pressed juice, but not a huge amount. But I think all the green tea, coffee, all these things, sort of things that you hear about, or in the media, or that you can read about, where you hear, like I've read quite a few times that coffee's got quite a good healing effect on the liver. So yeah, I have that, but again, not like loads and loads, just like a cup a day. Just try and sort of cram in as much as I can, because I 100% believe that's sort of got me to where I am today, and sort of on the journey of healing, and hopefully even more. Next time I go and have my fibre scan, I want them to say, it's gone down even more.
Well, you've done a few things, right? You removed the offensive things, the alcohol being the greatest, of course, and then the junk and processed foods, the dairy, whatever you're eating on your vegetarian diet, and then you've introduced the healing stuff, plus you're sleeping better, the exercise, all of that leads to a healthier body, and you have a remarkable ability to heal if you just get out of the way. So I tell people this: got to get out of your way. Your body will do what it needs to do, for the most part. That's phenomenal. So what is the bit of advice that you like to give to people? I mean, what is, you mentioned on your website, which is, people will see it in the show notes, Aaron Calder, vegan.com, and on Instagram, same handle, that you really want to share your message and be inspirational. So what have you found that people really resonate with, and what is your joy to bring to others from your experience?
From veganism or from drinking? Or...
It doesn't matter, whatever you feel called to share.
I think one of the things I very much believe that life is a journey, and that we're here, to learn and better ourselves. So health is vital, so important. I was having a conversation just a week or so ago with my personal trainer, who he's not vegan, but he tries to eat fairly healthy-ish. But we were just saying, you know, if we got ill, you know, if you went to the doctor and they said, oh, it's bad news, you've got this, it's not looking good. We both said, well, we feel we've lived we've done our best health-wise to look after our body, to try and stay away from diseases and, you know, things like that. So I think, you know, it's just so important to be more conscious of what we eat. So, you know, if you've got a drink problem, you need to get help and not drink, because you said that's the most important thing. I think some people, when they come to me for advice, think they can still drink but go on a plant-based diet and, you know, it will be okay. It's literally, you do have to completely stop drinking if you've got a problem, or if you haven't got a problem, you know, alcohol is not great, and so limit what you drink per week or when you go out, and just have lots of healthy things. And I think people just got to be honest with themselves. If you're not feeling great, if you're feeling depressed, if you've got problems, you know, talk to someone. There's always someone there to listen, even if it's on like an internet forum, but obviously be careful, make sure you pick the right one just to chat to people, or there's helplines. But yeah, for me, I think on reflection, whenever I do try and offer advice, I want to help people before they get anywhere near to the mess that I got into. And that's why I talk openly about my story, because I think if I can stop someone, you know, ending up in the hospital, you know, I think some people sort of look at me as a success story, which it is to an extent, but actually, you know, I still do have chronic liver disease. You know, I'm told, you know, in 5 years, 10 years, my liver is more than likely to pack up because of the damage that is there. So, you know, you just got to, just look after yourself.
No, that's important. And I think you are a success story because you learned the lessons that you had to learn to keep moving forward. And I think that's, so many of us turn away from the lessons that are presented right in front of us. We don't take the opportunity, like you said, life is here to teach us, right? It's like, what am I here to learn? Like, what are you here to teach me? Just being open, you know, open palms and receive whatever that message is. So it definitely will make a big difference in your life. It has for me, at least, as well. So I appreciate you saying that. So I think it takes a lot of courage to share a very painful story. And
I apologize if I feel a bit awkward and uncomfortable, because obviously there is still, when I talk about it, although I'm fine to talk about it, I did notice sort of it's quite fresh sometimes thinking back, because it was such an awful time. So I think that, but that's why, as you say, that's why I don't drink, because it's such a major thing to frighten me away from ever drinking.
And that's been 10 years and it's still
raw,
right?
kind of, visualizing you know, the vomiting blood, you know, memory, and the images come back. It's sort of like, oh God.
Wow.
But it's, you know, life's a journey, it makes you stronger. And you know, you've just got to take it step by step. One other thing quickly, sorry, is I was guilty of it. Everyone thinks, oh no, you know, if I stop drinking, what about this? What about that? What about the weddings I go to? What about the parties? What if in 10 years I do this? You've got to just think of now. You've just got to think, okay, I'm not going to drink today. Let's see how I get through the day. Come tomorrow, think the same thing. You just got to take it step by step. And every time you take a positive step and a day passes where you haven't drunk, that's, I feel, something that sort of like builds me up to a point where after 10 years, I just think, well, I can never, ever go back and throw away those, you know, what a waste of 10 years if I suddenly started drinking again.
Yeah. So you and I went vegan about the same time. So I was in 2012, I also went vegan. And it's interesting when you say that. There's just like the thought of eating meat or dairy. It's revolting. It really
Yeah,
is. Like
yeah,
I can't even walk down the meat or dairy aisles very well without just going, need to quickly go through, because it all I see is you know, suffering basically.
yeah.
But no, I just want to encourage you to keep, you know, keep sharing your story, because I find it a very special person that can be humble enough to share with others and courageous enough. So it takes a lot of courage. So I want to say thanks for that. There's a lot of people that you'll help you'll never even know.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for asking me to chat with you. It's been lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you again, Aaron, for your time today, and I should say tonight, because it's almost 10 o'clock there. Bless your heart.
Go straight to bed after this.
Yes, I imagine. Speaking of, we're wanting you to get rest. We really appreciate all your time and working, you know, with all the schedules and everything halfway around the world, across the pond, so to speak. Sharing your stories, I'm sure you're going to inspire many.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe and alert buttons so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content we're working so hard to provide you. We upload a new episode of Health and More with Dr. Lori Marbus every Friday. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. If you're looking for amazing resources to help you start and sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, or anything wellness, we got you covered there too. Because at Mora, we actually provide physician-led support groups to help people live happier, healthier lives, free of metabolic disease. Don't forget to check out our website at mora.com, and thanks again for watching.